So do you want to start, Michelle?
Sure.
You're recording.
I mean, I feel,
right? Okay.
I feel like we're in a good place. I feel like what you just said, Jackie, about the thinking about the culture of inquiry. Like when I was thinking about the question this week, I think it elevated, I made some additional connections. I called them synaptic connections in my writing about culturally responsive pedagogy and culturally responsive teaching. And then thinking about that in the higher education space and what it means to honor each of our different cultures. Because I think when I started thinking about which values, I immediately thought about which ones were the same. And then I thought, well, I think it's almost more important to also think about the values that aren't the same and how they're honored within the group and how that actually enriches the experience, not just the ones we can say are the same, because it's within the learning of the ones you don't know about or finding connections of your own between other people's values that I think really get your brain thinking. So that was kind of my own personal jump in thinking this week. And I used, I used some of that theoretical work in my last piece to kind of make the connection in the education sphere of looking at what being culturally responsive looks like in a higher education collaboration. Because we only really talk about it a lot in K-12 in the teaching world. So that was fun.
Yeah, I saw that evolution of your thinking. That was pretty magical. The comment I made in the email was, I feel like we need a student voice somewhere in there.
I know, and I've been racking my brain. I saw that, and I've been racking. This is such a weird year for students.
Yeah.
So I've been racking my brain about getting the student input, and so I have asked. So I was going to go back and look through some student comments and some different things that they've written in their own pieces and see if there was something in there. I don't know that I have any video evidence to add in, but I might have some other pieces. So yeah, that got me thinking about where I might pull that from. So I'm going to look to see if there's anything in there. I feel like it has been kind of a weird year, but we'll see what I can find.
I was wondering whether in that article that you wrote, where you had a couple of students where you dialogued with them, and whether there might be something in those.
Oh, there might be. That's a good point. I'll go back and look at that because there might be some comments in there about kind of meeting them where they are or something. Yeah, I'll go back and look at that. Maybe I can pull some of that forward. Thank you.
Great. How about you, Parbati? How are you?
I'm enjoying. I have posted the revised version there, and I was really amused. How to say? Really wonder. Like I could connect my living educational theory with interconnectedness, and that amazes me. Next thing is the question has really helped me to ponder and to have some ideas connecting, like actually what we have been doing and how we have been connecting and working together here, and why are we doing this. So that really helped me to go through that, and I came up with that idea. Next thing is, I have one word in my mind, like there is a word activist. So definitely we all are activists, and more than that, I feel we are artivists as well. It is because we are using videos, we are using photos, and we are using different forms of art, like we are using different forms of like playful of language. So there are varieties of ways of expressing. We try our best to express, to make our ideas and things explicit. So I feel uh, like activists, they express and they work for social transformation or social reformation, and they have journey outside. And more than that, artivists, they also work for social transformation and also educational transformation, reformation, and but their journey is inward. So we feel like at least those who have who don't have English as mother tongue. So we feel, I feel personally, I feel like arts, the use of different forms of arts are helping me to go inside and to make sense really what I mean to say or express. So in that way, like I just, that one particular word is uh, hovering around and telling me uh, you are artivist more than activist. You are artivist, and we are not actually working for society, like transforming very directly and going out to do something. Rather, we are inside our classroom and we are inside our working place and trying uh, to express or helping, supporting students to express what they really feel deep inside, which they are not able to express through English language, particularly because now also I'm not able to express what I really want to say, because I need to find the words, and many of the students, they struggle for translating. And in the case of writing, we really feel hard to express ourselves to the fullest, and arts are the mediums. So we are more than uh, activists. We are activists obviously, but we are also artivists, I feel, in that way. That is what my thinking. That's
That's a new word to me. I've never heard artivist before, so that was very interesting. It makes a lot of sense. But I think you're right. It's a combination of activist and artivist, and certainly you're much better with the creative work, using words creatively with your poetry and your drama, and I think the spiritual parts where you talk about sattva and I mean and how it's influenced your thinking. So I think you're actually expressing it extremely well. And it's really taking my thinking on just to hear you talk and to read what you've written. One of the things that you talk about in that paper is gender issues and your feeling of inequality for females. And I think part of what you do is you help others, particularly the young female students, to feel their own embodied knowledge and to feel that they have a contribution to make. I think that's a key issue for you. It was in your master's, and it does come in into pretty much everything you write, right?
yes.
So I don't know whether you want to explore that anymore, but that's certainly another piece in there that I always see come up when you're writing.
Yeah, that will make another paper then.
Yeah,
It's
you're right. Probably
yeah.
another paper.
Yes. I have just taught students, they have expressed like how they feel they feel happy to see me and my colleague in the classroom. Like there are female teachers, and they are also equally capable, and we feel lucky and happy to get you. So from that expression, I just tossed at the end of the paper, but that makes a great sense, and that will be the beginning of another. That might be the beginning of another paper.
Lovely. Okay. Jack, do you want to talk about where you were at?
Yeah, sure. I mean, mine is the excitement of engaging with your different papers and the ideas um, from two perspectives. One is like with Shivani and Parbati in particular, I'm very aware that you're bringing new insights into my understandings from different cultures. So I'm also going to strengthen my paper in terms of this idea of decolonizing, that I need, as an African writer has just published about decolonizing the mind. So I'm just going to add something which shows how by engaging with your papers and your culture, with those beliefs of yours, you're helping me to decolonize my mind as I move forward with this idea of a culture of inquiry. Okay, so that's one area I'm going to strengthen. And then the other one is, it's fascinating to me that, and it might sound strange, but when we opened and we asked Michelle how she was getting on in terms of a birth, the idea of giving life, you know, it's almost like one of the most hopeful things that we can do. It celebrates life itself. And what you did for me when I did with the video, move the cursor along backwards and forwards with everybody, I just got this wonderful moment when there was an energy which I think we were sharing, and for me carried not a verbal sense of my values, but it was an embodied expression. I had this with Jackie about 2002. And, you know, we had a video clip where suddenly an explosion of laughter between us. It just felt that this was where I was feeling that unity. Okay, so I've got that in the sense of something 2,500 years ago when Plato was writing about Socrates. They're called the Dialogues on Poetic Inspiration. And Socrates is saying that the person who can hold both the one and the many together, he actually calls dialecticians and walks us in the path of a god. Now, this idea of one and the many, I think that I experiencing with you. So this is what I'm going to try and strengthen in my paper, where that moment of that release of energy and the pleasure of being together is where I'm experiencing that unity of us or we. That, and then we've each got our own unique constellation of values, which are actually, to me, showing our, if you like, differences. So we're acknowledging that we are unique persons, but we've been working together with that notion of something which is actually binding us together. So that's where I've got to.
Yes, I like that one, the one and the many. You know, you can interpret it in so many different ways,
Yeah.
but I think with our family here, there you've got a perfect example of the one and the many. We feel common, shared values, and you know, amongst us, certainly in interconnectedness and love,
yeah,
and respect, but we each have our own unique ones that, you know, makes us different from each other, but very much part of this connectedness in the group.
Yeah, and that's where that notion of a culture of inquiry, where I'm moving, able to move between, because of your papers, it crosses boundaries. So it's a global culture of inquiry. You know, yeah, so that's where I've got to.
Hey, Shivani, how are you
Yes.
doing today?
Fine. Yeah, I'm working on the paper still. The scholarly significance, I need to work more. So again, let me try to it. And I remember that what Professor Jack said about decolonization. I remember when we have a poster presentation and when we divided into the track, right? So that time I shared about my decolonizations, that in social work education, I found that many a time colonization approach, block my mind to work the social work practice in Indian context, because the syllables and everything we had done as per the colonization approach, and this is how we have started the movement in India, and I am the part of that movement, that we have started the decolonizing mind, especially in social work practice. Then only you can connect with people. Otherwise, then it would be, because one of our theories of person in an environment. Of course, the theory is a good, but it need to be practiced in a local context. So that decolonization and those things I had shared those period of time in poster presentations also. And then I realized that if we can work on those decolonization approach, then only we can understand our own culture. Otherwise, every time put a toto from abroad and put it in a social work educations, definitely it won't work, because our socialization process at our home and out is a different, and what we find in our syllabus, that is a different. So there is a gap between our syllabus and our practice. So that is there. So that I just remind when Professor Jack talk about the decolonization.
So that, I've got the phone ringing, but anyway. It'll go away. What I wanted you to share today was to talk about this 66 member group that is going to respond to the call for a new curriculum for India, for the whole country, and how you are going about raising the voices of the teachers to improve this direction of the curriculum.
Yeah. So actually, we have a webinar. We had done a webinar recently. Actually, the point is that all our teachers knew about our new education policy, and many critics are there, But then I realized, let me work from the part of the teachers. Let understand the teachers, how they are working on. And the point is that in national education policy, even I read that intent is too good, we can work on. But as a teachers, because ultimately it already prepared by a teachers. But when it comes to the implementation, teachers just read on it, they don't try to understand what the education policy is. Instead of forget about the practicing it, instead of meticulously reading about it, they themselves
slower, you're going too fast for me.
They themselves come about critics. So what we decided, let's involve teachers in this process. So this 66-page document, we extract 6 themes. The one theme is of research, the focus of an inquiry. Second thing is talking about pre-service and mid-service training program. Third thing is talking about interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary educations. Fourth, we're talking about that how our education will help in societal development. And lastly, we work on the research that are being practiced in our Indian context, right? So this is how we divided the themes, and we discussed with teachers. We did an intense brainstorming sessions with them. Actually, people want this webinar at one day only, but I decided let's have a number of brainstorming sessions with them. So in a day we have a 10 to 12 sessions with each group. And then finally we came out, one of the teachers asked me that we already read all these 66-page document, right? And nothing is going to be worked. So why you want us to be part of that time? I said that if you want your voice to be heard from the top authority, it's required that be a part of it. And if you don't want your voice to be heard, then you have no right to critique anything. So we are getting a chance that we should submit our voice to the authority, and after then let's decide what to work on. And let me share you today only, we are assigned to work on Indian Science Congress webinar on 6th March, or seminar on 6th March. It's not webinar. And that time all those teachers who are involved, they keep on sharing with NEP ideas only. And then they said that this practice help us out to know what the policy is all about. By the time we have read in newspaper, watch on the TV, and we just critique. Now we understand our role is. So lastly, I would like to say that, today only I shared with my teachers that, if intent is clear, then we should work on the content, right? But the point is that we decide to work on others' content. It is the right time to prepare your own content as per the theme and submit it to the government. And let's wait, because ultimately government, the teachers to be part of. So this is what I had done.
That's fabulous, isn't it? Imagine having a direct impact. And you said that you have teachers that are beginning teachers, and you have teachers that have been working for many years. And the voice.
Yeah. The group is of the teacher having a 35 of experience, and the teacher have a 5 years of experience. So my point is that let's have some hand holding policy also, then only it will work. Otherwise, because and I specifically put that teachers also who was on the verge of an retirement, because that they might play the role of a mentor, and it was done also. They had asked me that after 6 months I am going to be retired, so why you want us to be in this group? And we said also that you are only the mentor who can help these entry level teachers how to work on, because we require that second in line someone is there in our profession, which is we are not never working on. So this is what we have done.
Right.
And that's specifically from your value of democracy, right?
That you had discussed with me. I never thought of, but I work on the democratic process, that I know.
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
Mm.
So, what do we think our next step is?
I want to share about decolonization and colonization, the idea of colonization. Here in Nepal, we feel we take this colonization and decolonization as two ways. Like in one group of people, they talk about and they deeply study on decolonizing issues, and there are people who don't like to talk about colonization because we were never colonized, and we just at times, like, people romanticize the idea of colonization because we are never colonized, and we might have that colonizing or colonized mindset because of language, English language. But the language is, if language has colonized, then all the nations are colonized, not only Nepal. So there are different versions of colonizing and decolonizing. And for me also, I don't like to discuss much on colonizing and decolonizing issues, because I personally don't feel like we are colonized. But yes, obviously, if we talk about colonizing, then we ourselves are colonizing. Like, for example, our mind is colonizing our heart. At times our heart is colonizing our mind. So I understand in that way, but not in other way around, like how the issues are discussed, particularly in the papers, news, and media. So that is my different view on colonizing and decolonizing.
Could I just ask, it's related to what you're saying, Parbati. If I look at the way in which English has now, if you like, become a global language. Okay, so we are now conversing in English. And I'm very aware that when I was over in Colombia and also in Bolivia, there was an issue there about ignoring the indigenous languages. And I'm just asking this question because Shivani, it's actually with Shivani working within, for example, an Indian context, where for the first time, the Educational Journal of Wellbeing Theories published a paper in Jakarta, in Jakarta, is it, how do I pronounce that? It's a language of one of the largest states. Is it called, beginning with J? Is it, no, with G? Anyway, the language is there with a paper from NEMA. And
Neema's paper.
yeah, Sarup has actually written to the Prime Minister in India to say that this has been done. In other words, quite a lot of people have been on Twitter to say that the paper has actually been published. And that seems to me to be part of this, if you like, almost like decolonizing. You know, we've got to be very careful about just taking for granted that English has become the dominant global language. Whereas, you know, in Nepal, where you have never been colonized, you know, in the armed sense that you have been taken over, yet we've got this issue that we are using language as our kind of global language, which I think is needed. It's very important for us all to communicate. But again, we've got to be quite careful, I think, to recognize that some of the communications that you can make from within the Nepalese culture or within the Indian culture cannot easily just be translated directly into English. So I was going to add that part into my paper about the importance of recognizing what De Souza Santos calls, you know, the idea of epistemological, well, it's a kind of oppression, and how we might liberate. I think we're working to do that ourselves as we pay attention to each other's papers and the values in particular, like the one Parbati about the interconnection. You know, it's really important, this. Anyway, I just mentioned that because it seems rather important about language.
If I did not work on the teachers' professional development, I would be working on how much English do we need. So I had that question in my mind for the, like, when I went to visit my professor, I had that question in my mind and went there. So of course there is like, it is connected to what we are discussing now.
Yeah.
There is.
That's good.
Yes.
And another thing is that when, so yesterday we have international, we have a mother tongue, the day that we have celebrated yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So let me share that in India we have a earlier the dominant language is Sanskrit, right? So if we, about me, let me tell about my social work practice. If we don't relate or linkage with the literature of an Sanskrit, right? So how can we understand their way of dealing with an human being? And ultimately, social work is what is, it will give you an idea, or to put it in practice, that you have, how you have to deal a human being. So if you ignore this part, you know, so that then it makes a difference, because your children or your student will never understand what is there in your culture, which is very rich. We are not saying that I am not against to an colonization, but I am here to say that decolonization is required. Then only the people will change their focus. This is what I think.
Yeah, no, that's really important. It really is, Shivani. That's great. I think, Jackie, you were asking about what are the next steps, weren't you?
Yes. So what do we want to do next? And I'm conscious that our half hour is up. So what would we like to do for the next step?
Could I just ask about a mistake I think I've made, which might help us with this? I thought that there was a deadline when we had to post our papers onto the AERA site.
Right. It's the March the 12th, I believe.
Oh, right. So you've definitely got, I tried to find that, but March the 12th is got to be posted up there. So if, for example, I've got them 3 days before, you know, either I actually post them, I'm not sure how we go about this, but we'll find out for next week. But, you know, I will be suggesting that by next week, you know, it's almost that we should have our final papers ready to share with each other. And then, you know, we're going to get them up in good time, and I can put them on my website anyway, right at the top of the What's New section. But does that sound okay? in terms of what we do next.
Yeah.
Do we know, Jack, if AERA is doing, if our symposium will be live, or is it something that's taped ahead of time, or how they're doing this virtual event?
Well, my understanding at the moment is that it is live. That is my understanding. But
Okay.
I can actually check with that. But they did talk about asynchronous sessions. But
Mhm.
as far as I understand it, we have all got our papers. We should, using whatever system they've got, whether it's Zoom, but we should be able to present our papers and have them already up there. That was my understanding, Michelle, but I could check that.
Okay. Good.
So Jack, maybe when you find out, if you could maybe, would you take the position of the moderator of the symposium and kind of give some idea of how we might use that time? Can you
Yeah,
do
I mean,
that?
what I was, yeah, I will. We'll have a look at the timings again, but it just feels to me that it's great where you have, for example, Jackie, if you introduce it in terms of the culture of inquiry, it's lovely to be able to connect with so many different parts of the world, where we're all coming from, and then we actually demonstrate together that yes, we've got our papers that can be accessed, and we can share where they can be accessed. But to be able to demonstrate together that this was actually a collaboration between us, where in the session itself, we live out, it was that implication of what I showed with that video clip, that there's a quality of relationship between us, which is inquiry. It's part of, we are a culture of inquiry, and we've been doing that together. Now, it just felt to me, Jackie, you could introduce that session, and then, we can talk about this beforehand, but how we might, as we've done today, each of us have contributed, and it should then become obvious because we'll be able to hopefully record it. And then we've got that evidence of how we actually presented to that AERA conference. And we've got the data, we can then use. Does that sound okay?
Yes? Okay.
Okay, so if by next week, if you see how you feel, but it'd be great if we had what we are feeling of the kind of finished papers that we want to actually present. I'll have found out just about whether it is, we're all presenting together. I can then start to put it onto the website and then get it ready to actually upload to the AERA website if it's needed for an individual to upload them all. Because I think that would be the way in which it will be done, but I'm not sure, rather than each of us individually trying to upload it. But I'll find it out.
I suspect we'll have to individually upload it, but let's, you do a little research and then we'll make the decision next week, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Final paper for next Monday?
Are we okay?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
All right, lovely to see everybody.
It is.
Yes.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Bye-bye then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.